President Obama and the First Family are returning to Washington after their holiday trip to Hawaii. Tomorrow, the president will turn his attention to reducing gun violence when he meets with Attorney General Loretta Lynch. At issue, whether he can use executive action. A change could result in more sellers having to conduct background checks, but wouldn't completely close the so-called gun show loophole, which allows for firearm sales at gun shows and other events without a check. So can the president take action on gun control? That's our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Just use the hashtag Fox26forlife. Joining us live in the newsroom is our panel led by our senior legal analyst, Chris Tritico, our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Valley. Good morning again, guys.
Good morning.
All right, so will Congress step in or will President Obama use executive action?
Both.
There you go. Easy as that.
I think it's clear that the president is going to issue some executive orders regarding gun control. He's asked for years for Congress to do something. Congress has not given it a committee hearing, as far as I know, and I think the president's ready to act on his own. What that will cause is Congress to try to override his executive order. Now, when you override an executive order, it's really the same as overriding a presidential veto, so that's really almost impossible to get through the United States Senate. Mustafa Tamiz, why now? I mean, it's clear Congress is not interested in addressing this issue. Why is the president doing this? Isn't there a better fight for the president to pick?
Well, I think what he's trying to do is to get rid of the gun loopholes that exist if you purchase a gun through the internet or if you purchase a gun through a gun show. And then I think he's trying to prevent people that are on the terrorist watch list or no-fly list from buying guns. So I think that those are very simple, reasonable things to ask for. And you're right. I think it will be a fight, unfortunately.
Why won't Congress give him those four things? I mean, you know, that's not really saying we're taking guns away from Americans. We don't want people on the no-fly list to buy guns. We want to close the gun show loophole. What's wrong with those four minor steps that Mustafa talked about?
Congress is elected by their citizens and voters have been polled over and over and over again that they like their guns, they like the rights, they believe in their Second Amendment rights, and they don't want more gun control. That's really what the issue is. The president wants more gun control. Congress is actually listening to the voters, which is what they're supposed to do, and voters are saying we don't want that. He's also citing terrorism as his reason for his new executive orders that may be coming through. Well, instead of taking away our guns, or instead of putting more requirements on law-abiding citizens, look at your foreign policy, because again, gun control is only going to impact those of us who do things legally. Terrorists are not going to look at the laws. They don't care about the laws. That's why Americans are saying, leave us alone.
What about that? I mean, literally, I think Jackie's absolutely right about that point. You know, you pass a law that says if you're a criminal, you can't buy a gun. They don't really care about that. No one's ever said, oh my gosh, I can't buy that gun.
Well, absolutely. And I want to remind people that the president also has been elected twice by a large number. Right? Just want to make sure the Congress is not the only one that runs for election and gets elected. The president has done it twice as well. And he is listening to the voters as well. And there is a great demand for people to say, look, we're not trying to change much, but to basically do some simple things, which is we require people, if they walk into a gun store, to go through a background check. But if they go through the internet or if they go to a gun show, they don't have to go through the background check, and he's trying to eliminate that. And then two, he believes that anybody that's in the no-fly list, someone who's dangerous, that we believe that should not be able to travel around this country or internationally, that person shouldn't be able to walk into a gun store, a gun show, or through the internet, purchase a gun. So this is not about law-abiding citizens. We already agreed, the Congress already agreed to have a background check. We just wants to have it basically so that it works, so that you're not able to do it on the internet and you're not able to do it at a gun show.
All right, let me go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
Okay, we want to head first to Twitter and check in with one of our viewers, Tony. Tony, thanks for being up early with us. He says the Congress is listening to the people, the president isn't. And then we go to this person here. He says the NRA will campaign against Obama's executive orders, but 83% of gun owners support background checks on all guns. Not sure where he's getting his number from, but he says 83% of gun owners support background checks on all guns. And then the NRA has been pretty silent since the end of the year, but they did tweet out that executive gun control will force background checks on private sellers. It seems their biggest issue is they don't want to limit Americans' freedom to sell guns to their neighbors or their family members. They don't want hobbyists to have to fall under these same kinds of rules as professional dealers.
Well, the NRA is virtually opposed to just about any regulation, and so I don't know that they're really the people we ought to be looking at to determine what our policy is or shouldn't be. And I don't know where he got the 83%, but I have heard and read stories that a majority of responsible gun owners are in favor of some form of background check, Jackie Bally. It doesn't mean that to say I'm in favor of a background check doesn't mean I'm in favor of taking guns away.
No, we're making it sound like we don't have any background checks, which is not correct. We do have background checks. We have seen that they are working. Of course, you can tweak any law. I mean, everything needs to be looked at. But the fact that he's saying, look, I blame, we're looking at terrorism, and I'm thinking instead of when we want to combat terrorism, let's make sure that law-abiding citizens have more requirements to get their guns. That is not what you need to be doing. And once again, Tony is dead on. Like I said earlier, the reason why this has never, every time he brings this up, and Congress says no, is because Congress is listening to their constituents on this issue. It's sort of like immigration.
So let me ask you this. If you're in favor, you say all laws can be tweaked. Would you be in favor of tweaking the law to say sellers at gun shows have to do the same background check as the owner of a store?
But they have other...
Just answer that. I mean...
I agree that the constituents in Congress needs to listen to their constituents, which is what they're doing. They're doing the correct thing.
Final thought. We're almost out of time.
Well, at gun shows, you just don't have hobbyists. You have professional dealers at gun shows selling guns. If that same person that owns a gun store, somebody walked into that store, they have to go through a background check. But if they ended up at a show, then they can sell any firearm without having any background check. And that just doesn't make sense. It's a loophole. It was unintended consequences. It wasn't written well, and it should be fixed.
So I think the president's clearly going to issue these orders, Sally, and I don't think that the Senate will be able to override his executive order. So whatever he orders will probably go into effect. Executive orders, though, don't have the same national impact as a law that's passed by Congress and signed by the president.